To start the back routine, it's a good idea to place your hands on the back, rubbing through the towel. This allows the hands to warm up, but also feels good as a first contact at the start of the treatment. When ready, you can uncover the back, bringing the towel down and tucking the single seam into the underwear. Bringing down the underwear, uncovering part of the buttock. Then apply a long effleurage down the back, around the shoulders and into the neck. So placing your hands along the spine, travel down the back to the lumbar area, across the lumbars, pulling up through the back, around the shoulders and up through the neck. Repeating this sequence several times, trying to keep contact as you come off the head. Try not to overreach. Just moving down to the lumbars if that's all you can go to. You can increase the pressure through this sequence. When ready, move to the side of the couch and use a flat-handed circular effleurage, travelling up the back, into the shoulders, around the shoulder, moving back down the back into the mid-thoracics, lumbar area, into the buttock area, around the hip. Transitioning into a petrissage movement, allowing the thumb and fingers to gather the tissue, manipulating the tissue between your fingers and thumb, squeezing and pushing. Travelling up along the spine. Not always as easy to gather the tissue here. Using a reinforced hand technique, working around the pelvis, along the line of the ilium, into the buttock, around near the hip, using the finger pads, the surface of the palm, and also the thenar and hypothenar aspects of your hand. Travelling up through the back and around the shoulder and top of the shoulder. Using your finger pads to knead into the buttock tissue. Again, working up through the lumbar, mid-back, upper back and shoulder. Coming into the side of the neck. Moving around the couch to repeat your sequences on the opposite side. Again, beginning with a flat-handed effleurage, circling up and down, moving down into the lumbar and gluteals, Moving back up the back, around the shoulder, into the top of the shoulder. Repeating several times. Start to petrissage again, using your thumbs and fingers to grab and to manipulate the tissue. Squeeze in and knead in between your fingers and thumbs. Trying to gather in as much of the tissue as you can. Again, coming down through the area of the spine. Not so easy to gather in as much here. Then moving again into the reinforced hand technique. This technique allows you to really build up your pressure and allows you to bring your body more into the movement, pushing away and dragging towards you, using different aspects of the hands, finger pads, palmar surface, and the thenar and hypothenar aspect of the thumb by the wrist. Again, working into the neck area and around the top of the shoulder. Once you've repeated your 3 sequences, we can effleurage across the spine, traveling up and down, working across the lumbars, the mid-thoracics, into the shoulder, using an effleurage stroke to come up through along the spine and over the shoulder. Gliding again up through the back, around the shoulders, gliding back down to reset in the lumbar area. Using some local kneading to the buttock and lumbar. Then using the fists to work into the concave curve of the lumbar. Allowing the fists to make contact through the lumbars, coming up through the buttock, travelling up towards in the direction of the shoulder. Building up the pressure slowly to suit, but getting deeper and more firmer with the technique. You can also try the other way, so going down from the shoulder in the direction of the buttock. Again, allowing the fists to make contact and push into the concave curve of the lumbars. Good technique to really work into that lumbar area. Again, you can switch to reinforced hands to work across the ilium and working into the gluteals. Working across the ilium, down towards the hip. You can then use forearms, allowing the more fleshier part of your forearm to make contact, resting it on the mid-thoracics, dropping down towards the lumbar and gluteal area. Again, building the pressure up slowly to suit. gliding back to repeat. Then we're going to switch the routine to the other side. Again, starting with the flat aspect of the fists, moving up from the gluteals in the direction of the shoulder into the concave curve of the lumbars. Again, you can build up this pressure, working more firmly into the lumbar tissue. You can also again turn and move down in the direction from the shoulder down towards the lumbar and into the buttock. Keep it a nice rhythm, nice and slow but firm. Then again switch into the double hand, which allows you to work and knead into the pelvis along the line of the ilium, down into the buttock and down into the back of the hip. Again, switching to the forearm, allowing the more fleshier aspect of your forearm by the elbow and to the mid forearm to rest onto the back, allowing the forearm to glide down in the direction of the lumbar and buttock, gliding back to repeat. And you can effleurage across both sides to finish. Working across the spine, travelling up and down the back. When ready, we're going to use a double-handed ironing movement up through one side of the spine and around the shoulder, coming back and then repeating on the other side of the spine on the opposite shoulder. So effectively working both sides of the spine from one side of the couch. Allowing your hands to travel up from the lumbar, mid-thoracics, around the top of the shoulder, gliding back and repeating on the opposite side. When ready, choose the side nearest to you and start to come up more slowly, kneading into one side of the spine, allowing your body weight to drop into the tissue. As you come around the shoulder, using more of your finger pads to work across the top of the shoulder and the heel of your hand over the scapula. Again, sliding back to repeat, coming up through the lumbar, mid-thoracics, allowing yourself to build up the pressure, coming across the top of the shoulder, using the reinforced finger pads to work into the top of the shoulder, and gliding back down to repeat. When ready, move over to the other side of the couch and repeat the reinforced hand movement up the other side of the spine, coming up through to the shoulder. Sliding back to repeat. Then again working with more local circles, travelling slower and kneading into the tissue as you work up towards the top of the shoulder to the bottom of the neck, across the top of the shoulder, out towards the top of the arm, and sliding back down again to repeat. Really allow your body weight to get involved in this movement, allowing your force to come through your hands and drop deep into the tissue. Using a figure of 8 movement to work across the shoulders and down the back, working both sides of the back again. Travelling up and across the shoulders. Now start to work more locally into the shoulder blade, using different aspects of your reinforced hands. Using the finger pads, the heel of the hands, and the thenar eminences and hypothenar eminence to work into different positions across the shoulder. When ready, we're going to move across 180 degrees, moving to the top of the couch, changing our angle, and moving into the shoulder blade from a new position. Again, moving slightly wider, coming over the shoulder blade, working more locally into the shoulder, along the spine and top of the shoulder. And we should have moved through our 180 degrees, finishing on the opposite side of the couch, but still on the same shoulder. When ready, we're going to repeat the 180 degrees on the opposite shoulder. Again, working with your hands on the shoulder on the opposite side. So working the opposite shoulder blade again with our reinforced hands, working up and down along by the spine, across the top of the shoulder and around the shoulder blade, using local kneading and finger pad frictions to work into any areas of tension that we find. Using our hands to push away and drag towards us, coming up into the angle of the shoulder and into the neck. Then moving to a new angle across our 180-degree arc. Again, changing this angle helps us to knead into the tissue. Allowing us to be a bit more creative, working into areas again of tension, staying on areas that we find where there may be some soreness or adhesion in the tissue. Then finishing on the opposite side of the couch, again kneading into the top of the shoulder and around the top of the shoulder. So we've worked both sides of the shoulder blades. We've travelled across each shoulder blade 180 degrees, exploring different ways of working into the tissue. Then we finish with a figure of 8 across both shoulder blades. Now we're going to use a reinforced thumb technique, allowing the hand to place itself over the thumb of the other hand and using local kneading thumb friction into the top of the shoulder. You can build up the pressure here, go gently to start, building up to a firmer pressure. Keeping the thumb supported by the other hand, allowing the forces to come down through both arms evenly. Then swapping over to the other side, placing the hand across the thumb to support the thumb, working with local kneading and friction into the top of the shoulder. Now we can use our forearms down along the spine, staying on one side of the spine, so not working directly on top, allowing the more fleshier part of your forearm to make the contact. You can build up the pressure with the forearms, going slowly, adjusting the pressure to suit your client. Try to avoid any bony elbow going up the side of the spine, allowing your body weight to drop into the tissue. Switching to the other side, using the other forearm. Again, sticking to the more fleshier part of your forearm, to the midsection, down towards the elbow. Gliding back and forth through the upper back, down to the mid-back. And into the lumbars. can then use a double forearm technique, working either side of the spine, coming through between the shoulder blades and the spine, allowing your forearms to make contact, again more near the elbow, fleshy end of your forearm, coming down by the side of the neck, pushing off the legs, leaning through. Try not to overreach. You can also use your forearms to glide over both shoulder blades. Another option is to use what I call a chicken wing and bring the shoulder blade up by placing the arm on the lumbar area and using your forearm to move through the upper back, mid-back, along the line of the shoulder blade, dropping deeper into the tissue. Again, you can find the pressure to suit, allowing your forearm to drop down through the mid-back and into the side of the neck. Taking the arm down slowly, rest it down by the side, and repeat on the opposite side. Again, allow your forearm to move through the upper back, down by the side of the neck, running along the channel of the shoulder blade and not making direct contact on top of the spine, but sitting in between the spine and the shoulder blade. Again, build up the pressure slowly, adjusting the pressure to suit your client. And when ready, take the arm back again down slowly, gently, and lie along the body. Effleurage through the upper back, mid and lower back, up through the neck. Another option through the upper back is to use your fists. And we can use the flat of our fists to work in between the spine and the shoulder blades. You can travel from just below the neck down through the upper back. You can even use a slightly softer grip in your fists to use a movement through the top of the neck and top of the shoulders, gliding back and forth. You can also move out across the shoulder blade, top of the arm, using a softer fist contact to push into the muscle tissue and knead into and across the shoulder. Now we're going to use a kneading, ringing action to the back of the neck, standing on one side of the couch, allowing your fingers and thumbs to knead the lower part of the neck, the mid-neck and upper neck. Changing position to work on the opposite side to get the balance between the thumbs and the fingers. Working slowly, picking up the tissue, building up the pressure to suit. Changing position, working from the top of the couch. Allow more local friction with the finger pads, working into the sides of the cervical spine, working down into the bone, coming up through the side of the neck in the direction towards the occiput. Finger kneading through the occiput and into the head, and you can drop back down again and repeat, taking your time. You may feel areas of tension, adhesion, working more locally into these areas, allowing your finger pads to move up into the occiput, into the scalp, shampooing into the cranium. Applying an effleurage up and down the back, across the spine. And then we will move into using some of the percussions, starting with hacking, using our hands to move up and down the back, which incorporates flexibility from the wrist. Try not to keep your fingers too rigid and straight. Allow a slight softness. Increasing the speed as you become more confident. You may or may not wish to go slightly easier over the lumbar area, over the kidney area. The next movement we use is cupping, sealing the thumbs close to the fingers and creating a slight bowl in the palmar aspect of your hands, travelling up and down the back, creating an air sound, so not slapping, should be a light thuddy sound. We can then use a beating technique by clenching the fist and using the finger aspect of our hands as we move up and down the back and across the spine. Again, using flexibility from the wrist and adjusting the pressures to suit. An effleurage just to finish and calm that down. Perhaps even a slight rocking through the spine. You can then use the effleurage technique to cover the whole of the back and neck. Placing the hands on the upper back, travelling down in the direction of the lumbars, moving back up and around the shoulders, pulling through and into the neck. Repeating the effleurage technique several times to bring the treatment to an end. Taking your time, moving around the contours of the back and the shoulders and neck. Encouraging a relaxing flow and a calming down. Then we can use a finger brush technique, working from the lower back and buttock area, drawing up through the back and into the shoulder and neck and through the head. Using an alternating technique through both arms, encouraging a flow through the spine. Covering the back to finish, placing the hands on the back, and then rubbing through the towel again, bringing the treatment to an end.